Everybody, welcome to Shop to Chop. For those of you who are brand new, I appreciate you coming in. Tom and I are working hard with this. For those of you who have subscribed or coming back, thanks for coming back. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you guys can see the new videos that are coming out. The point of this channel is for us to get inspiration from markets, what's fresh, what's not fresh, what's around, and then bring it home in a home chef kind of environment and be able to prep it, be able to cook it. And so today we actually went to the Edmonds, Washington Farmers Market and picked up a bunch of stuff that we saw that looked delicious. What we're gonna do is we're going to do a salmon cake slider. And I think every slider needs a sauce to go with it. Traditionally, you'd see a lot of tartar sauces, things. We're gonna do a twist on a tartar sauce. Purists out there, don't freak out. But what we're gonna do is we're actually going to add pickled jalapenos to this. It's gonna give it this nice kick. It's gonna add a little bit of the brine from that, and we're gonna add a little caper. So it's gonna be kind of, instead of having pickles in this, you're gonna have this combination of capers and jalapenos. It's going to add this great brightness to the fish, and so it's really simple to make. We're not going to make our own mayo. We're just going to use Best Foods because that's what you should be using, and some stuff. So here we go. I like the chives in this because I like just the look. These are fresh out of the garden today. People ask me how not to cut your fingers doing this. Keep my fingers in. So we're roughly about a tablespoon. This is eyeballing this because that's what I do. But about a tablespoon of chive. And you know what? You can add whatever herbs. Tarragon would be good with this. I wouldn't add dill because I think the dill would get lost with the jalapenos. But if you were using, you could switch the jalapenos out for just pickles, and the dill would be delicious. You could use just parsley. I bet you could even throw some oregano. So we went and got some onions from Alvarez. These are spring onions. So we're just going to add one bulb of this. Finely minced. It doesn't have to be pretty. Remember, this is just basically a condiment. Again, we're not looking for James Beard, Michelin star, anything like that. This is just cutting up some onion, roughly. We'll use that later, I promise. Roughly, maybe about a tablespoon and a half. So we're gonna grab some jalapenos. So this is the cool thing about these is however many you want. These are just the nacho ones. I think they're great. Pickled jalapeno lens is such a great and such an underused ingredient, I think. Adds this great flavor and texture to a lot of dishes. I use it with, I've got a fried potato dish. Maybe I'll make it someday. Then with avocado and pickled jalapenos on it, and it is one of my favorites. It's a nice fine dice on these. Again, like I said, doesn't have to be pretty. We're looking at maybe about, again, tablespoon and a half. I'm gonna take some capers. Now we already got a nice brininess to it, so I'm only gonna use maybe about a teaspoon. Capers have such a strong punch anyway. Mince them up. Doesn't have to be perfect. If you get a whole caper, you get a whole caper. Add that in. Okay. Now I haven't added any salt or anything like that to this. The reason for that is the actual pickled jalapenos and the capers are quite salty. So what I'm going to do is we're going to mix this up. We're going to try it, and then we're going to see how it tastes, and then we'll season appropriately. Let's add some mayo. Now this is actually light mayo, and it works really. This is actually light mayo, and it works really good. I'm going to try to add here. It is about a little over a third of a cup. Maybe almost half. There we go. Let's see how that looks. I'm gonna add some olive oil. Helps break it up a bit. Maybe about a tablespoon. Let's add some lemon juice. This adds that bright acidity. Yes, there's bright acidity with the vinegar but this just cuts it a little bit. So let's mix it up. So let's add about a teaspoon, maybe more. Let's do 2 teaspoons of that jalapeno brine. This will thin it out too. We're going to add some black pepper here in a sec, but like I said, I usually season at the end when it comes to this one. Little salt, not much. Definitely needs a nice crack of pepper though. But there's some good heat to that. And this can be made ahead. I'm actually going to give it a chance to mellow out in the fridge for about maybe an hour, hour and a half, and use it as a nice topper. But that's about the consistency you want. This isn't quite, like I said, this is more of a sauce that we're going to be putting on top of the salmon cakes. You don't have to actually put this with bread. It's great if you just smear it on a plate and set the salmon cake down. But the nice thing is it's spreadable and it kind of envelops it. It's not very cloying, or but it just adds this wonderful flavor to it. We might need a little more salt, but let's let the flavors mellow. We went down to Wilson's Fish Market, down at the Edmonds Farmers Market, and what I got was these salmon ends. It's kind of the throw-offs of king salmon and coho and other things that people don't want on their cedar planks or pan fryer, making it look pretty, but it's still delicious, fatty, wonderful salmon that shouldn't go to waste. You can take things like this and skewer them up and turn them into a teriyaki chicken skewer, or any kind of chicken skewer really, or not chicken skewer, sorry, salmon skewer. This is what we just think of as skewers. Or you can dice it up and put it into a poke or something, something along those lines. But we're going to make salmon cakes. This is a home kitchen. You can put this salmon through a meat grinder. You can put it through a little mini food processor, because this is small, so you don't want to put too much in it. Unfortunately, I only have one mini food processor, and I'm making something. It's dirty right now. So what we're going to do is you can actually even cut this stuff up with a knife. And we're going to cut this stuff up for the salmon cakes really fine with our kitchen knives. So we grab some thyme out of the garden, just a little bit, just to kind of adds that wonderful flavor. This is kind of really young, so it's a pain in the butt to peel, but just go kind of reverse down the stem. Okay. So we have our thyme, roughly maybe a little teaspoon and a half. Let's give that a quick little mince. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to add that to our minced salmon. We're going to take our Alvarez organic spring onion. Again, mince it up. Remember, these are going to be all combined, and usually, like I said, I usually put this in a food processor, so I don't care about how the chop on this, but because of the fact that we're doing this kind of au naturel, in other words, it's going to be our test of our knife skills. But you can, like I said, you can put it through a food processor. I do actually like the texture of a non-food processor. It makes it a little more chunky, not as smooth and pate-like. Sometimes it's better that way. So we roughly about, say, 2 tablespoons of onion. The reason why I don't have a lot of the recipe here is because I find that you get to control it the way your flavors, the way your flavor profile is, what you're hoping for. So we went to Frog Song Farms today, picked up some fresh green onions, and I like the green onions more than chives into this dish, because I think it contrasts those the spring onion. If you don't have spring onion, you can shallot. If you don't want green onion, you don't have to. If you don't want regular onion, just add more green onion. I like the allium sweet punch that these things bring, and I want to use, and I love the color of having these green punches in the salmon cake. So we're probably going to do about a quarter cup, maybe a half a cup, the way it's starting to look. So I think this does need a little bit of a kind of a salty punch because we are using salmon, fresh local stuff. I like to use some capers, just a touch. So about a teaspoon and a half. Give it a nice mince because I want this flavor to be all running throughout. Put that in there. Notice how there's no garlic whatsoever. I don't want garlic. Garlic's going to overpower this thing. I'm going to add some fresh chopped parsley. Again, get it as fine as you can because this is your food processor today. But if not, just throw the whole leaves in the food processor and let it go. So we got about a tablespoon and a half. All right, so we've got our mixture here. I'm going to add a generous pinch of salt. I know even though the capers are in there, they're not going to lend that much salt. They're going to end much more of a flavor. Add some pepper. Good twist of pepper. And I'm going to add just a little bit of lemon juice, just to add that brightness to it. Now, I'm going to mix this up really quick. So we just want to get this nice and combined. Oops, everything's flying everywhere. Nice and combined. Yes, I'm going to add a binder. You know, some people will add an egg to their stuff to act as a binder. I do that occasionally with this, but today I'm not going to add an egg. We're not going to do the egg thing. We're just going to add our panko. And we're going to add our panko just a little bit at a time, just to kind of see where we're at. So we've just added maybe about a tablespoon or so. And this stuff makes a great, it as itself makes a great binder. And this salmon is so wet that once we form it into a patty, it will stay into a fairly good patty. We want a little bit more panko. And the great thing about this recipe is it's pretty flexible on what you use. You can use a lot of different things between jalapenos, pickles, a mixture of that with the capers, cilantro, parsley, tarragon. You could do this with tuna. Any kind of white fish would do really well. But see, we're getting a nice hold together there. But you know what I'm going to do, just because I like the flavor? So we're going to add about a teaspoon and a half of Dijon mustard. Doesn't look like a lot, but it will kind of allow itself to create almost an emulsifier and a binder to the salmon. And it just lends such a great flavor, especially when we're dealing with a flavor like capers. I know it looks loose, but what we're going to do is we're going to let that sit and combine for a little while, and then we're going to make our patties. So while we're at the farmer's market today, we went down to the Cottage Bakery, a really kind of cool little upstart bakery down at the market, and they have pretzel buns. They have these wonderful pretzel buns, so we're going to make them in with the salmon cakes as a little slider. So we now have to kind of, they're all pretty much, as you can see, pretty uniform as far as size wise. So we just have to see, let's make sure that we make our salmon cakes about that size. So I don't want them too thick. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna more. And coat them in panko. Give it a nice squish. I'm just going to kind of go around the edges, kind of clean it up. There we go. And we'll set it here. We'll just let that rest for a bit. So we'll do a couple more of these. We're gonna, our oil's nice and hot now. You want to hear that noise, get that bubble going. Don't crowd the pan. And what we're hoping for is this. These are salmon. You don't want to overcook them. Just you just want to get that exterior temperature just down, just to the just so you get it nice and crisp. And the salmon will cook all the way through. This is going to take a couple minutes to get it to where it's at. Like I said, we're doing this not too hot, not too cold. Almost done. Now you can actually put these in the deep fryer and they'll get that nice golden crust all the way around. I don't feel like breaking out the deep fryer for this. I'm only making 3 right now. So we're gonna pull that out. Let it drain for a second. With a little bit of salt. Always good to do that right after it comes out of the fryer. So for these salmon cakes, this can be served just like a crab cake with some sort of remoulade, whatever kind of sausage you'd like to serve it with. It can be put on top of a salad. It can be actually made into, I like them on baguettes where you put a bunch of them on. You have like a sandwich. Today we're going to be using those cottage pretzel buns. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of that pickled jalapeno sauce. We're going to put a dollop here. And put a dollop here. Okay. Take our salmon cake. That. Yeah, I know this one broke, but it'll still taste wonderful. To prove that it tastes wonderful, I'll be the one that eats that one. Take a little bit of lettuce. You can use cabbage. Cabbage is dynamite on these. On top, whoops. And then you just squish it, and there you go. You get a nice little slider, nice crispness. Get the sauce, get the greens. That brightness of that sauce comes through. The salmon is super mellow, but really fatty. Good seasoning, nice crispness, and that bun, we had it toasted. Overall, this is just a great little appetizer and one of my favorite little summertime dishes.